Hello, everyone. This is another Freedom to Feel conversation. And my guest today is Dr. Britta Zimmer. She is the Chief Medical Officer at Pacific Quest. Dr. Britta has been leading the Quest, a medical team since 2008. She is a licensed neuropathic physician. So, this is my brief introduction to you, Britta. The full bio will be at the end of this video and also in the description of the YouTube channel so we can get the whole view for what she's about. But the question that I love asking everyone, and you probably heard that before if you listen to any of the videos, I always begin with this fundamental question.
Mhm.
Who is Britta in this very moment?
I love that question. Thank you for the opportunity to be here.
Thank you.
I really appreciate being able to speak with you. Well, I'm a mother of two teenagers, two
Mm.
teenage daughters. I'm a healer, and I am a mentor. I'm a leader. I consider myself a thought leader in integrative medicine, and of course, I'm an integrative medicine practitioner.
Yes, what's not to love about that? And that leads to my next question. How did you get here? Like, what brought you to this path? I would love to
Yeah.
hear the backstory.
Well, I come from a family of physicians, and it was always been something I wanted to do is be a doctor of some sort. I had a sibling when I was in my young teenage years who passed away from cancer, and that was several decades ago. Now the cancer treatments are so much more advanced, and
Yeah, yeah.
my brother probably would have survived at this point. But every time he went into the hospital, from my 12-year-old perspective, he would get worse when he came out. So at
Mm,
that point, and this was my perspective. Um, at that point, I said, I really want to be a doctor that helps, that heals, that nourishes, that builds. Because every time he
mm,
would come out, he seemed so depleted.
yeah.
Fast forward, I do my pre-medicine degree at the University of Virginia, and then I went off track for a little bit and lived in
Mm.
Japan, but then
Oh,
came back
wow.
in with Eastern healers and Eastern methods and got back on track and learned about naturopathic medicine. I have a doctorate in naturopathic medicine, and we are integrative physicians. We are trained. We go to residency, but we're trained to treat acute and chronic diseases and diagnose them, do the same laboratory studies as conventional doctors. But philosophically, we really hold strong that first do no harm and help
Mm,
the healing innate sense of the body and try to use as many natural therapies as possible. But we integrate that with Western medicine. I prescribe medications, I do all that, but I do, it's both and I always say my black bag, so to speak, is very
mhm.
large. Not only do I have pharmaceuticals, I have a whole other tool chest at my disposal, and I'm well trained in it.
I love that too. We talked briefly off record about this, yeah, kind of bridging. It's almost like bringing those two worlds together. I guess we would say science and spirituality, kind of bringing them together. Um, so, since you talked to briefly about your brother, I would like to ask you this question: what is your relationship with let's say, death and grief and all that? What meaning do you make out of that, Rita?
I really think as soon as you say death, I think about a cycle,
Mm,
um,
yeah.
and that he still lives within my spirit and has motivated my
Mm,
purpose in life. And
yeah.
I channel it more into that, into helping other people rather than feel that sense of
Mm,
grief. So
yeah.
I've really used that to be, as part of my calling. And your question about who am I have a very strong intuition as a healer, as I treat
Mm,
people,
mm,
and I believe that's part of the cycle too of life and death,
yes.
and that use that intuition to really fuel our knowledge and to help people.
Mm, yes, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you for answering that question. And you did, yeah, I love the way you said that. So what do you have become today? What do you do? It's in a way inspired by what happened in the
Right.
past. And it not that there's nothing wrong with grief, right, Brita? It's okay to feel the feelings and be natural with them and honor
Absolutely.
them, right? This is
Absolutely. Yeah. And again, that's the cycle. Rather than getting stuck, feel it, move through it, do something with it. Yeah, absolutely.
right.
Yeah, you say that
Right.
well.
And another question that I have for you is about healing. What is
Mhm.
the? I guess I had this question last night. Yeah.
Mhm.
What healing looks like in relationship to mental health issues? Like
Yeah.
once it's said and done, and somebody's considered treated or healed, what would that look like?
Well, that's a good segue into what we just talked about grief. Healing is, in terms of mental health perspective, it's not that you're not feeling sad or anxious sometimes. I
Mm,
mean, these are all part of the human experience, right?
right.
So,
Right.
healing to me is
Oh yeah.
the level of stuckness you have. If you're
Mm,
getting
mm,
stuck in these emotions, and really, the concept
yeah.
of disease, or I call it dis-ease, from, let's say, an Eastern medicine perspective, is when the energy, the chi or whatever, is stuck in a part of your
Mm,
body, right? It's not moving.
right.
So healing is addressing that, removing the obstacles to cure, the obstacles to healing, so you can
Mm,
continue on your path and keep moving
right.
through and not getting stuck. Because the stagnation and the stuckness is what can kind of foster that disease process.
That is so true, though. Yeah, it's something that I wholeheartedly have experienced. It, not just beliefs, not a belief system. I have experienced that, and I know. Um, so, is that something that you encourage patients to do kind of once they let's say sufficiently healed, that they carry their wisdom with them, because life is very dynamic, right, Brita? And it's
Mhm.
we could get stuck here and there, and there's nothing wrong with that, but then knowing, having the tools, it's very helpful, isn't it? So I'd
Right.
love, yeah, talk to me for a moment about that, how you teach them to encourage them to carry that
Sure.
medicine per se.
So, one of my philosophies as a integrative practitioner is that it's not a one size fits all treatment plan. We really have to meet the patient, the person where they are, and figure out what works for them. So,
Right.
if you have migraines, for example, and I have five other people in front of me with migraines, they can't all receive the same treatment because they have migraines for different reasons. Migraines is
Yeah.
the expression of their body. And so if
Right.
I just keep hitting the migraine with the same hammer, then it's not going to
Yes,
work. So each person needs their own
true.
unique um, kind of recipe toolbox, so to speak, of how, let's say we get to a point where they're not having migraines and they're not feeling as depressed. So what happens when they get exposed again to whatever might be causing their distress, and
Mm,
then what can they
mm,
take to do in order to get back on track? So it's we have to individualize the medication, the treatment recommendations. And oftentimes what I see, since I work at a residential treatment center, all the adolescents and young adults come and they stay with us for about three
right,
plus months, and
right.
they have run of the mill mental health issues, from depression, anxiety, ADHD, OCD, autism spectrum. They have a whole spectrum of mental health issues. And
Yeah.
oftentimes they have all received the same type of treatment. They have the
Mm,
therapist, they have the pediatrician or the psychiatrist, and they're treatment resistant because they've failed a bunch of
mm,
medication trials, right?
mm,
But no one's
right.
really kind of thought out of the box and figured out, why is this young person actually having these symptoms? There's a lot of depressed and anxious young people, right?
Yes.
But everyone has their different kind of root cause of that. So we right size those treatment regimens for the individual and educate them. And because we're residential, it's a very experiential
Right.
process for them. They can really, and instead of just their mom or practitioner saying, you got to eat well, you got to sleep well, you got
Mm,
to move your body, they actually
mm,
are embodying it. They're doing it every day. So they have this experience of what it feels to be well. And then once
right.
they leave us, they
Mm,
can always tap back into that sensation, that experience. We name it for them, and we help them connect the dots of how they got to this point of more balance than what they're experiencing before they came to us, and really try to right size that prescription for them and what that means once they leave.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
That makes a huge difference. I love the way you talked about the embodied experience of well-being, right? So it's a living thing. That's what I really, something that I'm always very much attuned to is that the living experience. There's nothing really replaces that. Because
Mhm.
sometimes a lot of these things they just get very intellectual and we understand the level of the mind, yeah, I understand it's knowledge, but then
Mhm.
never gets to be applied. And I love how, yeah, Pacific Quest, I love the name too. I mean, the name of
Mhm.
my podcast, one of them is A Quest for Well-Being, right?
Mhm.
That's
Yeah.
and Hawaii is just a perfect place for that, isn't it? Perfect.
I was just speaking to a family. The families are still on the mainland or outer islands, and their children are with us. And I was just speaking to one of the fathers, and he described our program as a sanctuary.
Yeah.
That he had sent his child here as a sanctuary,
Yeah.
and I really liked that because I do look at this as a place for resetting the young person's mind. And also, of course, we work with young adults, and for them to have a chance. Well, we take away all their technology, so that alone puts us at a
Yeah.
huge advantage.
Yes.
Because they're not isolating, they're not inside, they're spending 8 to 10 hours
Mm,
outside. And as you know,
mm,
since you live in Hawaii, it's beautiful, so they're
yes.
getting fresh air
Oh,
and sunlight. um,
yes.
and then we're also nourishing them. And
Yes.
as I know you're well aware, when you nourish your body from a
Mm,
nutrient perspective, there's also
mm.
this point of nourishing yourself, so you have a better capacity for self compassion, self love as well.
Yeah. So talk to me a bit more about that since we already get started. That's one of the, it's fascinating how a lot of people don't know about that, the connection between everything. Basically, everything's interconnected. There's nothing that's really separate. So, but
Right.
specifically, what's for those who don't understand, to get a little bit a deeper glimpse into that concept,
Mhm.
gut brain connection. How does it work
Sure.
when in relation to mental health, Brita?
Yeah, it's so profoundly connected. There's this bi-directional communication between your gut, which is the small nervous system, the enteric nervous system, with your
Yeah.
whole nervous system and your brain. So
Yes.
for so long, we had this extremely reductionistic
Mm,
way of treating mental health. Right? You have a neurotransmitter, deficiency, so we're going to replace that with a certain medication, and then see what happens. So
right.
then, as research has come online more and developed, we know that actually, for example, in your gut, you have 90% more serotonin receptors in your gut than you have in your brain. So if you're
Mm,
giving something to perhaps change your serotonin balance in your body,
yeah.
and help the reuptake more, then you really have to think about the gut at the same time.
Right.
So, what inflames the gut, and what could potentially inhibit that your medications for not working well? Um, Anything that's inflammatory in our life, right? Food is a big thing that's inflammatory. Sugar, processed food, um, toxins in our food. Of course, there's environmental factors as well, and we can get into that.
Yeah.
Stress is very inflammatory.
Mm,
You can be
yes.
doing everything right, taking all your supplements, but if you're stressed, you have high cortisol. Prolonged high cortisol equals
True.
inflammation, right?
Yeah.
Lack of sleep, not sleeping well. Again,
Mm,
if you could be doing everything right,
mm,
if you're not sleeping well, your cortisol is going to be high. You're going to have inflammation. So
right.
inflammation in the gut, in the intestinal lining, will actually inhibit your absorption of key nutrients, and
Um,
key nutrients that we know are needed to as an adjunct treatment for common mental health disorders. So to
right.
just thinking about, oh, I'm just going to treat the brain because there's a chemical imbalance, I can tell you that that alone does not work. So you have to
Mm,
do, it's both
mm,
and I always tell people, because
mm,
sometimes people have a very conventional Western philosophy of medicine. It's like I'm well grounded in both realms, of conventional medicine, integrative medicine, and we're going to take them both and figure out the best of both worlds, and meld them together in order to treat the individual.
right. Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, I see a lot of wisdom there, and that's not a coincidence that you are the leading um, um, med- chief medical at officer. That makes so much sense. It had to be somebody like you. Yeah, you got to bring all parts together because life is not just dealing with parts, right? I know that there's a, as you
Right.
know, part work, right? That basically to get to wholeness. So we have just addressed parts to get to wholeness, but isn't it about life itself? Just kind of
Mhm.
being more, having this big picture type of view. That's one of the things that I really appreciate from doctors, or psychiatrists, psychologists. I really appreciate that in them. And of course, thank you, Brita.
Yeah,
That helps.
absolutely.
Yeah, you're about to say something.
Yeah, yeah. The experience that I hear from so many of these parents and their children who come to us, I mean, they really have chronic disease. That
Mm,
their depression is a form of chronic disease, anxiety,
yeah,
that
yeah,
is interfering with their life, and they're frustrated because they've gone to all the ologists. They've gone to the psychiatrist, they've gone to the psychologist, they've gone to the gastroenterologist if you have a stomach issue.
yeah,
They've gone to the neurologist, and
yeah.
it's they're kind of, again, when I say reductionistic, that's what I mean. They're breaking up in parts, and no one's bringing it together. Like, how
Right,
are all these parts related? How come
yeah,
there's anxiety and that's felt in the gut, for example? Um,
right,
and the parents are frustrated, and the kids are frustrated because they come,
right.
and I mean, I have some 16-year-olds on 5 different
Mm.
psychiatric medications,
Oh,
and
no.
they're frustrated because they don't feel well. And again, you need to take that whole, you got to take some of the parts together and figure out how to address that issue, and why so often it's kind of the gold standard of treatment to use only pharmaceuticals to treat these conditions.
I know, Brita. Yeah, that's sad though, even to hear about that, teenagers being in so many different kinds of medications. So that leads to this question to you. Is that something that Pacific Quest aims to, as a goal, that these teenagers will leave your facility without the use of medication, of psychiatric medication? I'm wondering.
Yeah,
I've been
no, it's
wondering.
not our goal because
Oh,
there is a necessary use of
mm,
pharmaceuticals for mental health. I'm not going to say
right.
that there's not, because I've seen it turn cases around. It's
Yeah.
more figuring out what the right medications are, what dose, and what's working and what's not working. The problem is, I mean, we know antidepressants work, and the thing is, we don't know fully how,
Yeah.
because we don't have all the information about how the brain works. For example,
Right.
fluvoxamine is a common
Mm,
antidepressant for OCD. It's commonly prescribed for that. During
right.
COVID, during 2020, when we had a lot of patients getting having these kind of inflammatory reactions, how some really fared well and some weren't
Mm,
faring well. They discovered that the patients taking fluvoxamine actually were faring better. And what they found out is that fluvoxamine has anti-inflammatory
oh, wow.
properties. And they
Really?
knew that specifically because they're called cytokines. They're chemicals in our bodies that get secreted in response to medications or lifestyle, events. And they found that fluvoxamine was actually decreasing one of our major inflammatory cytokines. So, you know, we don't even know why some of these medications work. Um, but the problem is they're often prescribed in isolation, like I said, like just kind of like, okay, here, try Prozac, now try Zoloft, now try this. And there's a way that we can really tailor the prescribing. So I started an integrative psychiatry program at Pacific Quest, and I work with psychiatrists. And so one of the things we do is we do genetic testing to see how the body's
Mm,
metabolizing different medications. So
yeah.
oftentimes we'll find out actually those SSRI medications, they aren't the best for that particular person. Let's move to a different class of medication. So we'll find the right medication at the right dose. And because we're controlling for so many other variables at a residential treatment center, like we're feeding them well, we're getting their sleep back online, they're moving. We can really do a lot of trial and error with the medications, which a lot of psychiatrists don't have as easy a time doing. Let's say, the child's going to school and they're getting bullied and they're having ADHD, and the outpatient psychiatrist will be afraid to move things around because they don't know, is it the medication not working well, or is it the environmental factors at school. So it's kind of hard to figure out what's working and what's not. So oftentimes psychiatrists are worried about taking any patients off the medication, so they keep kind of adding more, and maybe they're
Oh,
adding more to get better
mm,
effectiveness. Maybe they're adding more because there could be a side effect. So it's this compounding situation. And so what we do at
yeah.
Pacific Crest, to answer your original question, no, our goal is not to take them off all the medications. Our goal is to figure out what is the right treatment for them. And it includes medications. It includes a lot of nutrient repletion. We just do basic laboratory testing for them, and we're finding that a lot of these young people, they're deficient in vitamin D. They're deficient in
Ah,
B12. They're deficient in iron, and it's been missed. And so we have the studies that show, for
mm,
example, iron. If there's iron deficiency, then the patient will not respond well to some of the common ADHD medications such as Adderall. But if you replete them with iron, you give them iron, then they can either stay at a lower dose of Adderall or not use it at all. So there's studies showing this. So you kind of need both. And the reason why, it's all biochemistry, iron
oh, yeah.
itself is the building block of tyrosine, which makes dopamine, which is what the Adderall works on.
Mhm.
So this is all just it's just science. Um, and it's just interesting that it's not mainstream. And there's this whole question of evidence based. What's evidence based versus not? And I can tell you that my 16-year-old patient who's taking 4 to 5 medications, there are no studies that that's safe or effective. Yet
Mm,
it's
yeah,
something that happens very often.
right.
And there are just, but if you do like a PubMed search to see like the citations of, okay, so what Adderall for ADHD versus iron for ADHD, you're going to get a lot more for Adderall versus iron
Mhm.
because there's more money going into that research for the pharmaceuticals.
Mm,
So
that's true.
just because there's not as much money going into nutrients, and nutrients are not very expensive, really, and
Right.
and you can get them from your food if your food's sourced well. Yeah,
Yes. Wow, that's a big one, isn't it?
yeah, yeah.
The motives, the reason why to keep, yeah, people on medications. Of course, that's something that a lot of people are very much aware of it these days.
Mhm.
But it's still not knowing what to do. A lot of people at the individual level, they don't know
That's
what
the
to
thing.
do, and then they ended up just taking medications. But I
Yeah.
have two questions for you. One is, you mentioned earlier about the cause, like, in the healing industry or being a healer yourself, it's very, we know that we need to find a cause, right, Britta? What is causing somebody to be depressed? So is that
Mhm.
something that you have seen? Like, once you find the cause, then it feels like common sense to me that the symptoms would disappear, or at least kind of
Mhm.
ease, or is
Yeah.
that, yeah,
Um,
yeah,
Oftentimes it is multifactorial, the cause, right? It can be
yeah.
trauma, for example. It can be experience they have, and that needs to be released. Um, it can
Yeah.
be, and it can be nutritional. Again, it's the nutrient depletion is not the cause, but that can be something. It can be an infection. It's like maybe
Mm,
they had an infection as a young child, and there's
yeah.
there's continued psychiatric symptoms because of it. It could be a
Right.
family system issue. It can be
Mm,
their perceived role in the family, and how that has changed their perception of themselves, and then then you can
right.
get anxiety, depression. I mean, it's usually multifactorial, which to me always, you identify the factors, the cause, that mean, and the treatment has to be multifactorial too. you know Again, it's
Yeah.
many nails and not one hammer are gonna get all of them. Yeah. Hmm.
Yeah, that makes sense. That makes a lot of sense. It From that perspective, I really like the idea of simplicity. I usually go back to that. Like, I usually remove things when I'm not feeling well. I start removing everything, almost like stop eating. Even the fasting, I do like 2 days without eating to see what happens, and then sure enough, the symptoms disappear. So, is that something that you also encourage in a way? I'm just kind of out of curiosity, fasting.
Well,
Yeah.
for the developing brain, I do not actually. So for my
Mm,
adult patients, yes, I see a lot of value in intermittent fasting, and giving the body a break from
yeah.
digesting. And where's all that energy going to go when it doesn't have to spend so much energy on digesting?
Right.
I see a lot of therapeutic value in that. Since at Pacific Quest we
Mhm.
treat 13 to 17-year olds and
Yes.
then 18 to 26-year-olds.
Yes.
Um, I don't find fasting to be appropriate with them because again I'm trying
Mm.
to replete their systems. I'm trying to get them
Yes.
more nourished inside and
Mhm.
out. You know, mind, body, spirit nourishment. I
Mm.
mean, we're really
Mm.
trying that. So
Mhm.
fasting's not quite indicated for them. I mean, more for them, they're having a lot of like blood sugar fluctuations. If they're eating,
Yes.
you know, sugary foods in the morning. Of course, they're not doing this at my program, but back at home, if they're going to Starbucks and eating something really sugary, then they you know have this the blood sugar glucose spike, and then they drop and they get really
Mm.
moody and irritable and brain fog. So I'm teaching them how to really keep that more stable throughout the day, which
Mm.
for adolescents is really hard to do. So I teach them different tactics. And I like what you said. Simple, you got to make it simple. If you don't make
Oh,
it
yeah.
simple, they're not going to do it. So there's
Yes.
absolutely no calorie counting, no grams of anything. We don't have them do that ever because it's not useful and it's not how your metabolic system works. We have them just identify whole foods, colorful foods, fiber
Mm.
sources,
Mhm.
protein, you know, and make it just very simple for them, and so they know
Yeah.
how to feed themselves. We have to teach them that.
Yeah, that's beautiful too, though, that form of education. I mean, that's just what they need, isn't it? We all need that. And I notice that teenagers that they don't learn that somehow, especially here. They go for
Yeah.
fast food, anything that's, yeah, ready and it's right there. Um, I have two more questions for you that just came to me. One was microdosing with any form of therapy that's to do with what's called psychedelics, but it's really
Mhm.
plant medicine. So talk to
Mhm.
me about that, and then also how do you address the spirit part of it?
Mhm.
Body, mind, spirit. I would love to hear those. Yeah,
Sure.
the answers to
Well, I leave the microdosing with psychedelics to the experts who are doing that. So if that's something that you know we determine someone needs, then we will discharge them and refer them out. So that's not something that we
yeah,
specifically do. We don't have expertise. I think it's really important that one would go to someone who that is their expertise. It wasn't just like a weekend course they got and a certification. Um, so to really go to someone who knows exactly what they're doing. Um,
right, right.
um, yeah. So I'll kind of leave that conversation with
Yes.
that. And then your second question was, how do we address the mind, body, spirit?
This spirit, yeah, specifically, we have been talking about the mind and the body, but how do you develop or kind of pass on this understanding of spirit? What is the spirit in this context?
Well, we keep it pretty individual in terms of if they are not feeling well in their body. So, I mean, a lot of them they're just not. They're fatigued, they have brain fog, they have a lot of physical symptoms, they have a lot of mental symptoms. They're really out of touch with their body. And if you're out of touch with your body and don't understand the connection between the mind and body, your spirit is vacant.
Mm-hmm.
It's not, you don't understand it, you can't access it.
So
Um,
true.
so since these are young people coming from all parts of the country, we really try to just use nature based focus with
Mhm.
them because
Yeah,
you know
yeah.
everyone can really identify their connection with the spirit of nature to their own spiritual self. And so we're located right on you know Hilo Bay on the water. We have these beautiful
Mm.
healing clean waters where you know if they're having a tough time in that day, they can go and they can do a little cold plunge in there or just
Yeah.
or sit by the water and with their therapist and look off to nature. Or we do gardening activities so they can get
Ah,
down into the soil and ground themselves. So really
right.
it's just about self-regulation, removing the obstacles to healing, and so they can
Mhm.
start finding themselves. So
Right.
it's just we're just putting them on the right part of their healing journey and their path, and hoping that you know beyond us that they will continue those individualized practices so they can continue that whatever it's a search for their spirit or just the awareness of
Yeah.
their own spiritual self.
Yeah, that's beautiful though.
Yeah.
I mean, you do have all the components, yeah, for that to happen. It's almost like the conditions, right? We need to have the conditions for a plant or anything to grow. So
Yeah.
it's curious that you said just now, yeah, so they can find themselves. Would you say that that would be the spirit, Britta, in a sense, like from your own
I mean,
perspective?
you think about what these young people are up against right now. You know, they have the social media and the technology, and
Yeah.
there's lack of culture in a lot of their
Mm,
lives, lack of community, lack of ritual, rites of passage. I mean, just more so than ever. You know, I've been doing this since 2008, working at Pacific Quest, so I've seen a trend towards this, yeah, loss of self and just loss of connection, whether it's with
mm,
self or community, nature.
mm,
Um, and
yeah.
without that, I don't think you really, have that sense of self. And we give them, again, I just go back to what that father said, a sanctuary, a therapeutic sanctuary, so they
Yeah.
have an opportunity, because we really don't get that. I mean, think about the modern world. These are
Mhm.
high achieving kids. Some of them, they're in the rat race of high school and trying to get into college, or they're in college and they're constantly on their phones, and they're
Right.
constantly trying to
Right.
keep up. And there's a lot of pressure. There's a lot of kind of existential stress going on as well.
Yeah.
And so we hope that this is really it's their reset from a very mindful, informed, therapeutic
Mm.
way.
Yes. Wow. What's not to love about that?
Yeah.
And then, yeah, you mentioned culture, so the lack of culture. But
Mm.
I think the issue is that technology has become part of the culture, right? It's a new culture in a way. It's a new way of living. Like I
Yeah.
can't believe it's wonderful, isn't it, Britta, that we can have the phone, we can communicate like now, have this interview here. I
Right.
mean, it has everything has both sides, not like it's good or
Mhm.
bad. It's just how we use it. So it goes back to the individual again. That wisdom, yet tapping into our true selves in a sense. Like what is I look for nature a lot. And then it's funny that you mentioned that. Yeah, that's my reflection, my teachers really. When I see a flower, I see different kinds of trees that they give fruits to different kind of fruits, and then
Mhm.
that kind of informs me that maybe that's what it is with us too. We all have kind of we're so unique. Maybe there's something here that we are supposed to be doing and we are not. And maybe that's why we,
Mhm.
become depressed. And I mean, taking aside the trauma, and I know that trauma has affected me too, and I know how much that it blocked me from finding my sense of purpose.
Mhm.
How do you see that in relation again to mental health treatments and eventually the solution perhaps for those kinds of issues, the
Mhm.
sense of purpose of meaning, like I know what I'm here to do, and then you feel very joyful just by tapping into that. That's been my case, having these conversations.
Yeah, I mean, think about. I was thinking as you're talking just about the identity, how it is unique within each individual, but how with
Right.
social media and trying to get
Mm,
your likes and get accepted, and how they're kind of
mm,
losing this, they're part of their identity, which
true.
um, in the past could be more about community, more about relationship, who they
Yeah.
are with other people. And
Yeah.
now, kids aren't even getting their driver's license, because
Um,
they're just isolating in their rooms, or they're calling the Uber, or they're calling Uber Eats, and
wow.
there's such a
Yeah.
different relational piece, that in turn greatly affects their identity of who they
Right.
are.
Right.
Yeah.
Oh
Yeah.
wow. Yeah, that's I love the connection to that you just made. So when I just now spoke of that sense of purpose and meaning, individual, it's very unique.
Yep.
There's also service of the community. That's something that the
Right.
more I tap in, the more that's what it comes out of it. Like, oh, what can I do that can benefit my body, mind, and other people? So
Right.
that is what kind of gives this sense of purpose, almost like this feeling, like I mentioned, joy. And that's why joy is my main theme. And I think
Mhm.
that's why, because it gives me this sense of connection with the world.
Mhm.
Regardless, I feel like, oh, maybe somehow I can contribute. I can tap
Right.
into my own gifts and kind of give that gift. And then who knows? And then there's also sense of courage, because then
Mhm.
you're not really relying on the outside to tell you that you should or should not do this. You just do it anyway.
Right.
And
Right.
I mean, that's been my path in a sense.
Mhm.
Of course, I'm not a teenager, but there's
Mhm.
something about this childlike kind of heart. I think it's an energy that we are very
Mhm.
open and very curious. That
Yeah.
opens up, Brita, doesn't it, for this sense of, curiosity, especially. What
Yeah.
about if I do this? Possibilities.
Mhm.
And then something happens. It has been my experience with dealing with trauma. Has helped a lot
Yeah.
too.
Yeah. I mean, it's also not feeling, it's a lack of feeling that safe, secure base in order to explore that too. Right.
Mm,
Yeah.
yes. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's a lot, of course. Yeah. So
Absolutely.
yeah, is there anything else that I from that my notes, because I have notes here from the topics that so I don't go off on my own joyful conversation. I love these things, Anyway, so let me go back to the themes. We are almost at the end, but so I think we covered. Yeah, I think you mentioned what I received. Nature meets nurture. That's what motto. That's what you do exactly. I think you've been exploring that part already. It's just for teenagers, so you do not. Do you also welcome adults? You do welcome
Up
young adults.
until 26 years old. Yeah. And we'll
26.
entertain a little bit older too, but 26, we have a young adult program. It's 18 to 26. Yeah.
Yeah. Is
Yeah.
there a specific reason for that? Is that a? I would love to
Just
know
that
exactly why.
we don't have an adult program yet. We've been asked many times to create one,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
something that we are exploring. Because I think we all could really benefit from doing this, to be
Right.
honest.
Right.
Um,
Right.
so that is something we're exploring, and just to keeping them within their age related groups helps us specify treatment, in that setting for each of them. So yeah, we're working on the adult piece, but right now we're not doing that.
Yeah, that would be wonderful too, to bring
Yeah.
more. I know you have families too. And what is the main difference between working with young adults and teenagers and adults? What would be the main difference if you could answer that question?
Well, I love working with adolescents and young
Mhm.
adults. I find them just very open and honest, and you just know exactly where you stand with them. And
Yeah,
I did
yeah.
my residency back in Portland, Oregon, at a youth clinic, and I at that point I said this is the age I want to work with, because
Yeah.
you can equip them with all this knowledge and healing treatments, and just kind of, again, put them on a path before
Mm,
disease really sets in, and you can get
mm,
them early. And
mm,
so with when I in my private practice with adults, it's the disease process is set in, so it takes a lot more to kind of unwind
mm.
that and
Yeah,
change it. Whereas here with the adolescents and young adults, we have this immersive residential setting, so you
yeah.
see changes. I mean, I'll have a young person come in, and you can just see by the color of their skin, kind of the
Mm,
glaze on their eyes, just even their
mm.
body, how they're holding their body, their body language. I mean, within 2 weeks'
Ah,
time, it's like everything brightens. You can
yeah,
see the health and healing, because
yeah.
they're younger. They're more resilient in the way. I mean, they're really open to that change. And I mean, as you can,
Mm.
as a practitioner, that is very rewarding to see that. Whereas it can take longer for adults. Adults are, there can be more complexities, um,
Yeah.
and of course you need to understand just the difference in age related treatments too, and tailor it to that.
Yeah, that's yeah. I saw the glow in your in your eyes too, in your face. Speaking of the reward, right? It's
Oh, it's
rewarding to see
amazing.
results
I,
from your work. Yeah.
Yeah, and I would say the other big difference is, nutrition is a cornerstone of what we do. We really want to change the way these young people are nourishing themselves. And oftentimes, if an adult is going to come to me, they'll know for the most part how to feed themselves. So it's less education. We just kind of have to get them on the right path in order for them to be more compliant with what they know
Yeah.
to be healthy nutrition.
Yeah.
But for these young people, it's really something that they're not paying attention to. They don't think it's important, and really, it's our industry. It's our country that likes to really push processed food. It's readily available. If you
Right.
drive across country, you can really only get
Right.
processed food. You can't get really um, healthy foods
Right.
and whole foods. I mean, look how our hospitals feed our people. I mean,
Oh,
just I mean,
yeah.
here's a place where someone's supposed to heal, but and hospital stays cost so much money. Where is all that money going to? It is not going to their nutrition. And then you look
Right.
at our European counterparts. I mean, there's hospitals in Vienna and Belgium where they're growing their own food, where they have objectives to get X amount percentage. I think I just read about this Vienna hospital where they're trying to get
Uh,
60% pesticide-free organic foods to
uh,
their patients, to their ailing patients. But in America, we are nowhere close to that. And these young people are getting inundated with easy access processed food, and it is helping their disease process. More
mm,
inflammation, more disease, whether it's mental,
mm,
physical.
mm,
So really helping them realize how important that is. And again, once they leave here and they go, and if they even try to go back to just like the standard American teenage diet, they feel it right away. They're. I was just
yeah.
talking to someone last night. She's
Yeah.
17-year-old and she's leaving tomorrow. And I ask, and I try to have a kind of an exit, interview with them. Like, so what have you learned here? What's going to be hard to maintain? And she said,
Right.
I mean, this is a 17-year-old. She's like, I don't no longer have joint pain, and I was getting headaches all the time, and then she had a lot of digestive complaints too. And she's like, I don't even have that anymore. And I said, so
Uh,
when you go
mm,
back home and you start eating regular food, if it's not like our diet, then really notice, really tap in to what you're feeling physically, and
right.
make adjustments.
Right.
So anyway, it's
Right.
they just don't have that knowledge base. These younger people, and some adults don't either, but more so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's my question to you. Do you pass this on to the family? Perhaps they can
Yes.
learn from you and then cook.
Yes.
Oh, you do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We have a cookbook and recipe book, and
Mm, yeah.
we're hoping that they mirror some of these practices. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I like the word, the hope. Yeah. You hope that they
Yeah.
will do
Exactly.
that. Me
Mhm.
too. Me
Or
too.
or
Um,
I'll work with them and say, look, your daughter or son is about to come home. You need to remove all of those foods from the home. And you can't have the Oreos and the Cheetos because it's gonna be too tempting. Like, really try
mm,
to get the temptations away, and have very easy to grab protein and vegetable sources in
mm,
the
mm.
refrigerator. It's that simple. Oftentimes I think when we're trying to, like, we feel bad or guilty with our kids, we give them sugar somehow.
Yeah.
So really,
Chocolate.
I'm educating the families how to
Mhm.
switch that practice of kind of trying to overly sweeten our kids.
I know, and that also shows clearly about that we don't heal alone, right? It takes a community, it takes everyone coming together, yeah, as with that understanding what's healing here, what's a lifestyle that's healing, so we can come from that and then really apply that knowledge, right? That would be to me wisdom when we apply what we know. But we're
Absolutely.
quite far from that still, right, Brita? Like to fill that gap, between what we know and how we live and how we
Hmm.
really embody, as you
Yeah.
used that word
We're,
earlier.
we're closer here in Hawaii, I'd say, because of the
I
community, because of
know.
nature.
True.
My daughter is now in college
Yeah.
on the mainland, and
Mm,
she really, and she was born and raised here, so she really recognizes,
yeah.
wow, mom, it's really different out here.
Yeah.
There's like the lack of community, the lack of culture, the lack
Uh,
of connection, and people being so
right.
driven and not connecting with each other. And
Mm,
I think she had to
mm.
leave to really realize how much more we have it here.
Yes. You see, that's because we don't. I mean, what is something that you don't want to do is kind of keep them away, right? And kind of not knowing what the other side is. So it's good to
Correct.
have perspective. Perspective is really, really important in
Mhm.
life. So that's
Absolutely.
beautiful. Yeah, how she's
Yeah.
having this perspective.
Yes.
What's not to love about you, Britta, again, the work you do as a professional and then also your family. You're kind of giving them what they need to grow like this beautiful nature here in Hawaii, like so
Yeah.
lush and so, um, there's so much vitality, right? Everywhere in Hawaii.
Absolutely.
That's how I think about humans. Maybe we can kind of, we are nature too. Maybe we can
Mhm.
just kind of be like that, like explore our potential physically, emotionally, mentally, and spiritually. Thank you so much again for your beautiful presence and for what you do. Thank you.
Thank
Thank you. It
you.
means a lot to me because we heal together. We can't just be, yeah, it's really hard, this idea of, I mean, I talk a lot, sense of purpose, individual sense of purpose, and knowing what we are. But then what happens naturally is that we kind of expand that to others and just pass on to others. And if we everyone did that, then we would have a very different reality. I
That's
mean,
true.
from what I can see.
Yes, I agree.
So
Yeah. Yeah.
I want to mention your website, the specific quest.org will be clickable here, but you can find everything there. And any final thoughts, Britt? I do have a final ending question for you, but would you like to kind of conclude from your side with any final thoughts?
Sure. Yeah, I did. I hope whoever's listening that they understand that there's more to healing and treatment than just what's right in front of them. And if they're getting frustrated or they're not getting the results they need, that they need to find someone to help them look outside the box and help them
Mm,
look at all the different factors that can create their struggles, their mental, emotional, physical struggles.
mm,
And a lot of that has to do with just what we're doing internally in our body, how we're
mm,
nourishing, how we're sleeping, how we're
mm,
moving, you know, where how the inflammation is, being addressed. So I really just invite people not to get frustrated and to really
mm.
seek more because there are a lot of solutions out there.
Right. Yes, that's so true. So my ending question is one that I have asked a lot of people. Actually, I have two of them, if you don't mind. One is, what is freedom to you? What is the concept of freedom? How do you see that? And the other one is, what three experiences you would wish or, yeah, wish everyone to have before they die?
Wow. Okay. Um, in doing my homework, I did not hear you ask this questions
Yes.
before.
Oh,
um,
you're a wise lady.
freedom to me is removing limitations from
Mm,
our spiritual, physical, emotional, mental body. To really to feel. I mean, just getting up in the morning and feeling like you have the energy and
mm,
the desire to do what you need to do, whether it is something that is an obligation or something that you love to do, go to your yoga class or whatever it is,
mm,
but to really just to have free
mm,
limitations so you have the energy and the vitality to move
mm.
forward in whatever your purpose is for that day.
Oh, I love that answer. Oh, I love that answer. Thank you.
And then the last question was three experiences I would hope.
You, yeah, you wish everyone to have before they die, before they lose the body or leave the body, however we see that.
Three experiences before.
Yes.
Oh gosh. Um, the first thing that came to my mind is swim with dolphins.
Ah, wow, that's
I,
and
I don't know.
wow.
Just because I've been able to do that, and it's just like it's kind
Um,
of like a
wow.
mind-boggling
Ah,
experience. Um,
mm,
unconditional to experience unconditional love.
yeah, yeah.
Um, and thirdly,
Mm,
um,
mm,
hmm,
yeah, yeah.
gosh, there's so many.
I know.
How do I get to? Um, yeah, I think if anyone's ever had the experience of truly emptying their mind and feeling at peace in the moment and being present,
Yeah,
that's hard to achieve,
it's
but
true.
we get glimpses of that depending on how we're able to achieve that in an individual, whether it's via meditation or swimming into the ocean or just being
Mm.
present with a loved one. Yeah, really to be able to experience that and embody that. I think that's hard, especially as busy and kind of crazy some of our lives can be.
That is so
Or
true.
it's more
Yeah,
general, but that's just what is important to me.
yeah. Well, it feels to me like it's a almost like a seed, right? Where everything of greatness grow. Yeah, sense of peace,
Mhm.
right? Being present in the moment. Absolutely. I love your wisdom. I love what you do. I love the timeless wisdom that flows through you, and it's very clear to me. the embodiment of that. So thank you. And I love the dolphin. What is it about? I often talk about dolphins all the time, but I don't know how to swim, so I can probably never swim with them. But what is that? What is it about that? And the second one that you said was unconditional love, because I kind of connect both of them. They are very playful, and it feels like they give unconditional love freely. But is that what it is?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, the dolphin, it's interesting because they don't really worry about you when you're in there.
Mm, yeah.
They're not looking, they're not worried about you. They're kind of just doing their own thing, and they're always in a pack. They seem so relational, and
Wow.
together. And I mean, the fact that I've been ever able to even experience that just in nature. I went out and swam at one of our beaches
Mm,
here, and was able to, you know,
yeah.
go down there and see a pod of dolphins. I mean, it was,
Oh.
and it's pretty amazing. There's one breeding site where actually I've gone several times and had that opportunity, but they're just, they're wonderful creatures, and I love how they didn't care about me when I went down there. They were more just into what they're doing in their community,
Yeah,
um,
yeah,
and
yeah.
then the other one, the unconditional love. I mean, I think we some people take that for granted when they have it,
Mm,
and
yeah,
they don't notice that they have it.
yeah.
And so that's something to really stop and appreciate and value
Mm,
greatly when you're able to experience that, whether it's for yourself or with one another. Um, yeah,
mm, yeah. Beautiful, Brita. Thank you.
yeah.
I hear that quite often. Pretty much when I ask that question to almost 2,000 people, they all say the same thing. Yeah, the last experience, one of them, it's always love, to love and be loved. Pretty
Mm-hmm.
much everybody says the same thing. So that shows something, right? That's almost like scientific research. It shows something
Absolutely.
about love, the power of love. Thank you so much again for your beautiful presence and for what you do. And we'll talk soon. We'll be in touch again. Bye for
Thank
now,
you so
Frida.
much.
Yeah,
Yeah,
aloha.
appreciate you.